So if you've been following me at all, you know that I've been liking the green-black base 5-color dragon deck, and been having some trouble with mono red, as we saw last week. My 2 losses were to that deck, and I've pretty much been beating everything else. So we're looking for new ways to kind of fix that, and I'm not sure if this actually gets the job done, since I streamed with this a little bit last weekend and I lost to mono red. So we changed things up a little bit, and here we are. So we have a Sultai base now instead of just like a straight green-black base with a double splash. And by being Sultai, we get Icefall Regent as our 5-drop, and that might be slightly worse than Ojutai, but if we are a little bit more aggressive, then Icefall Regent could definitely be a little bit better than Ojutai. So we have Sidisi Brood Tyrant, which I have long said is better than Siege Rhino against the red decks because it makes 2 bodies. And the way that the red decks are built currently with all their tokens and, you know, Rabble Masters and stuff like that, Goblin Heel Cutter's another one, you really want something that can actually make multiple bodies. Like, what you definitely want is to have 2 or 3 blockers in play at all times. So you slow down their aggression, you mitigate the effect of their Tarka's commands to give their team +1/+1, and it's really unlikely that they actually burn you out from 20. So as long as you're able to stabilize the ground, you should be in pretty good shape. So Sidisi helps that a lot, and that is something that Siege Rhino, you know, it helps you with, but it doesn't do the same job as Sidisi. So between gaining Icefall Regent as a castable 5-drop that does not force you to double splash, and you gain Sidisi, I think this deck might have what it takes. So in addition to Sidisi making 2 bodies for you, it is also another graveyard enabler for your Haven of the Spirit Dragons, Den Protectors, and Death Mist Raptors. It also allows you to play the 4 full Murderous Cuts, which I like a lot, because having a 1-mana removal spell is a pretty big game in this format. And while Hero's Downfall is nice and the utility is nice, casting cost 3 every time is just, it's so tough, especially when it's double black and, you know, we're playing Haven of the Spirit Dragon and stuff. So I really like Murderous Cut if you can actually afford to play it, but in order to play it, I think you need at least 8 Graveyard Enablers, and right now that is what we have. So we are on the full 4 Murderous Cuts, which I like a lot. So this allows us to start double spelling pretty early, which is also great because our top end is fairly expensive. So we need ways to kind of, you know, keep our opponent's tempo in check while we build towards this late game stuff. And then we have 4 Courser of Kruphix, which is another great card against red decks, and is pretty weak to Dromoka's Command, but it feels like Abzan aggro is trending downward as more Abzan control and things like Green-Red Devotion show up in the metagame. So if there are not a lot of Dromoka's Commands, then Courser is certainly great, although in this deck, Dromoka's Command like also doesn't have that many great fight targets, you know? Like, are they going to fight your Wayfinder? Are they going to fight your Death Mist Raptor? Probably not. If they fight your Den Protector, maybe you don't really care because you already got something back. The only thing that is kind of unfortunate now is that we have Sidisi and, to a lesser extent, Icefall Regent. So we do have some things that are worth fighting. So Courser is slightly weaker in those matchups than the other Dragon deck. But overall, I think you know, Command is certainly a mitigatable thing. And the other thing that is kind of weird about this deck is that I'm not playing any Thoughtseize. And this is kind of an experiment where I felt like the Dragon deck needed some 1-mana interaction, but now we kind of have Murderous Cut to fill that role. Plus we have Sidisi as this early roadblock that the 5-color Dragon deck did not have. So maybe we don't need Thoughtseize. I find that post-board I sided out against a lot of decks. The only thing I really wanted against is Control. And sometimes against mono red if I don't have a lot of duresses or I need a way to deal with Goblin Heel Cutter on the cheap. But again, Murderous Cut steps up, and it does a lot of that work already. So we're going to try with no Thoughtseize and see how that goes. Other than that, mana base has to make a few concessions because we have Havens that are definitely worth playing because we have Satyr Wayfinders to find them and fill our graveyard, and we have Sidisi to also fill our graveyard. So going long, we definitely want some Havens. So we have 25 land, whereas most of these decks normally play 24, but the fact that Haven translates into something like a Dragonlord Atarka in the late game is pretty powerful. So it is worth playing, and I think it's pretty safe to treat the Last Haven as a spell. But if my original mana base had 4 Havens, and then it had the pretty standard like 1 Island, 2 Swamp, 2 Delta, 1 Urborg. But with that, you only have room for 15 green sources, which is incredibly low, especially if you have Courser and Deathmist Raptors. So had to make some concessions there. So we're down a Haven. We're down to only 1 Swamp. We don't have an Urborg, and we have 2 Deltas with only 2 fetchable lands and no Urborg to turn these Deltas on in the late game. But, you know, we end up with enough mana sources to cast all our things, I think. I think we're 18, 14, 10, with 10 being the blue, but we also have 3 Havens to cast our Icefall region. So I think the mana is good. And this will be a pretty solid test run for that, I think. And then for the sideboard, we have the squeeze. We have the hand disruption plus counter spells. So we get to take their best cards with duress. And, you know, this is control decks or even potentially Abzan or something. But we also have a way to stop the top of their deck with Disdainful Stroke. And then with Den Protector, you should be able to get back whichever one you need. So this is very helpful. Things like Abzan, you know, they have the hand disruption, they have the removal, but sometimes they just can't beat like a top deck Ugin or top deck Elspeth and stuff like that. So we have Disdainful Stroke to kind of cover that. A couple ultimate prices for Stormbreath Dragon. We don't need a ton of these because we have 4 Murderous Cuts, so we should be able to kill Stormbreath on the cheap. Then a couple Foul Tongue Invocations. These also come in against mono red decks. We generally only keep in the Icefall regions against them, so we only have 4 dragons to turn them on. But again, we have Wayfinder into Haven to find the dragons, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. And Foul Tongue is also quite good against the Mardu dragon decks as well. And then 3 Drown in Sorrows for the mono red decks, and we have a Soul of Innistrad since we have 8 ways to mill ourselves. So this is just kind of like the backbreaker against Control and Abzan, where yeah, you know, Satyr Wayfinder into Haven, you know, maybe get your Atarka back, kill their Elspeth, like that's good and everything, but they can maybe grind through that if they're playing Abzan. But if you're able to Soul of Innistrad back a bunch of Den Protectors, those will get you back some Raptors and so on and so forth. It's pretty tough for them to actually overcome that, so Soul is great there. And then also I found that with the Satyr Wayfinder Haven Engine, and Ugin is a great card for the sideboard for matchups like Abzan and things like Whip of Erebos. So this is the trump. The trump of all trumps. So this is the deck, and I'm actually pretty excited about this. I think it will perform well, and I've been excited by the prospect. And the one daily I played, I went 3-1. Like I said, I lost a mono red once. So hopefully the changes that we make can help fix that, and we'll be on our way.